Right now you're looking at the main screen. The main screen displays header RPM, which header that it's hooked to. Right below that is the header pressure gauge. So it starts from 1000, goes all the way up to about 5500 psi. Now this is measuring the header hydraulic pressure, which also acts as a pacer. In other words, when you get closer to the green, you know that you're going just about as fast as you can go. And then when you get into the yellow, you know that you have to slow it down. Over here we have the ground speed, or in miles per hour. Right here you can see there's a little P that lets you know when the machine is in park, and then it'll let you know when you go from which range you're in. You can be in 1, 2, which are your field ranges, and then you can go into your road transport range. Below that is your engine RPM. Next we have engine coolant temperature, engine oil pressure, fuel level, diesel exhaust fluid level. At the top we have a turtle rabbit function. This is going to be our range selection. So your first range, that's going to be 0 to 8 miles per hour. Your second range is 0 to 16 miles an hour, and these are your 2 field working speeds. If your tractor is equipped with the high-speed transport option, then a third setting is on here, and that's going to allow us to go all the way up to 21 miles per hour. Anytime you need to get back to the home screen, the bottom button on the right showing an arrow toward the center of the monitor will get you back to your home screen. Now I'm going to talk about the 4 main dashboard screens. Your first screen here displays, we call this a dashboard because it displays all your main Windrower functions, just like a dashboard on a car would. Next we have our engine information screen. On your engine information screen, you have your voltage, engine hours, coolant temperature, oil pressure, engine oil pressure. This one here, you can see that has a radiator and a fan. This is actually showing us our engine fan RPMs because it is independent of our engine RPMs. We have our service intervals, which you can change, so this one doesn't need the oil change for another 240 hours. This is our boost pressure. And down below, this is our air intake temperature. Next screen, this is your fuel economy screen. So we can measure our fuel economy. We're measuring it in acres per gallon, so it's showing the amount of work done per fuel used. Then we have an instant and an average, so we can actually go through the field and see, okay, if I'm going 12 miles an hour, here's what my instant fuel usage is. If I go 14 miles an hour, here's how it changes. We also can measure acres per hour, and then we can measure fuel usage in gallons per hour. The next screen here, this is your acre counter. This gives you acre counters for different fields, how many hours it took to cut a field, how many hours were spent cutting, and how much fuel and how much diesel exhaust fluid was used to cut that field. Next we get into our header flotation bar graph. You have right and left flotation. Each flotation can be adjusted independently of one another. If you go into this screen right here, this is your header flotation and header speed. Up at the top we have header speed in RPMs, and you can change that by either toggling it up or down, or by rotating a knob to dial in the exact header speed that you want for your crop condition. Here we have the effective width of the header. If you're cutting an even 16 foot with GPS, you can put 16 foot in. Over here, this is where you measure your right and left flotation. Now if we want to go over a border or we're cutting around pivot tracks, we can increase one flotation side more than we can in another. You can also increase and decrease them together depending on what kind of crop condition you're in. Now let's head back to the main screen. Right here we have a header tilting bar graph. So this is going to show us here our headers at 0 degrees and goes all the way to 10 degrees, and where it's colored in is where the header tilt angle is at. Over on this side we have our header height bar graph. This lets us know that our header height position, and if we have an acre counter on here, we can adjust at what height the header drops that our header acre starts recording. Down below we have another type of header flotation. Right here we can actually adjust each header height individually just for a temporary purpose. So let's say I was going to go back and just cut one border, and then I wanted to go back to level, I'd raise one side of the header up, and then I would level it back to normal as soon as I was done cutting just that one border. On the left-hand side of the monitor, we have a wrench. Now this wrench has several different functions on it. The top one is the tractor function. If you press that, our first button at the top, this is going to be for our automatic header down or one touch down. So when I hit the raise and lower button on the header, one touch will drop all the header lift pressure, not the flotation pressure, but just the lift pressure, so then I'm fully writing on flotation pressure when that box is checked. Down below, this is how you would dump all your flotation pressure. This is really only used if you're going to store the Windrower for a while with the header on it, or you're going to attach and detach headers. Right here lets you know what header's on it. Right now you can see we have a disc header, and it would show a sickle header, no header, or a draper header. Right here, this is our first gear. We can set how fast our first range setting is. So let's say we just wanted our first gear setting to be more of a creeper. We could set it all the way toward the turtle. If you wanted to go a full 8 miles per hour, then you'd adjust it all the way to the rabbit. Right here, this is your steering sensitivity. Since we use electro-hydraulic steering, we can actually adjust the different steering functions. The first one is going to be your steering sensitivity. In other words, how much turning or how much rotation of the steering wheel actually rotates or turns the Windrower. When you're on low, a lot of force or a lot of movement is required to turn the Windrower. If you're all the way on high, then a little bit of rotation will be needed to turn the Windrower. Down below we have the friction of the wheel. Since there's no mechanical linkages, there's nothing to provide resistance. That's why you can adjust your resistance. Low will be very little resistance, medium, which is comfortable for most operators, and then high if you want a lot more friction on the steering wheel. Let's say you have a problem where your Windrower won't start for some reason, and you need to figure out why. The first one, engine start. We can diagnose if our switches are working properly. Let's look at the forward, neutral, reverse. Right now it says it's in neutral. I can push it forward and it says that it's forward, which is going to disable the engine start. These functions are available for the parking lock, for header flotation, for the header drive, and for the header left. These are just a few of the innovations that Hesston is using to incorporate electronics to make your life easier.